Hey, what's up guys? UrAvgWarGamer is back with another video of World of Warships. And today, I'm going to be taking a look at all the captain skills for current tier 10 cruisers in the game. I'm going to be only taking a look at Tech 3 cruisers. The premiums will be for later because that video will become too long and it's not going to be easy for my throat to just keep talking for like 2 I would say hours or something. But let's talk about these current cruisers that we have in the game. Now, before talking about the captain skills itself, I want to give you a disclaimer that these are my personal opinions, and I will explain every single bit of the reason that why I have picked that particular captain skill for that cruiser. I will explain that, but again, my personal opinions stay with me, and maybe the other YouTuber or streamer might have a different opinion on these captain skills for these cruisers. So this is something that I would like to mention. With that said, I would quickly go through these cruisers one by one and explain every bit of reason that why I have picked that particular perk. And I'm telling you one thing, that this will be still very good. I don't think so that this build's gonna be too far from other super unicum players. I'm not a very super unicum player, but I'm a good player. I have played World of Warships for more than 6 years or something like that. So that can be a sort of a validation or a factor that you should consider to take my builds seriously, because I have played this game for a long time. I know some mechanics, I know some couple of things that can be sort of a factor for you to decide. But with that said, let's talk about these ships. So first of all, we are going to have the tier 10, I would say one of the very mediocre cruiser of all time, that is Yodo. I just don't like Yodo. It does not feel like a light cruiser at all. Like Wargaming, I don't know why, just like Wargaming has given the status of Yodo like that of a light cruiser, but it kinda does not look like that. As you can see here, the armor is pretty thin. It's always a heavy cruiser, but that is also very vulnerable at tier 10. Something that I would like to mention. But let's talk about the real stuff, the important stuff. Yodo, I would say if you want to play Yodo, build it for torpedoes. Now, the reason why I would say the torpedoes is the best option is because, well, if you use IFHE, it will worsen your concealment from 10 to 11 or something, which I don't think so you do at all whatsoever. It's a big cruiser, clumsy cruiser, and it will take a lot of damage if you broadside, and you're just going to get citadel pretty hard. And since its base torpedo DPM is pretty good, and your torpedo speed is 60 knots roughly without speccing it into the torpedoes, like it has 60 seconds sort of base torpedo speed. So with the torpedo, build overall, it can get up to 66 knots, which really improves the, I would say, the reaction time that it kind of needs, right? And also, since it does have Shimakaze Alpha at around 23 to 24k damage, improving it with the Pack-a Punch is amazing. Like you're getting 15% torpedo damage on top of already very hard hitting torpedo in the game. Making it 27,000 damage makes this torpedo build very good on Yodo. And you also have 15 kilometer range, and you also have very good reload time at 90 seconds, and you also have like 8 torpedoes on each side, 4x4, which is kinda nuts. So you can spam a lot of torpedoes with a lot of this EG spamming power that it has. Like, I'm not a fan of these 15 guns that are just very argy in terms of the shell performance, but still, with these guns you can set fires, and with these ton of torpedoes that you can send like within a minute, like it's a really problematic for the battleship if anyone pushes onto the Yodo, making it a very decent build with torpedoes overall. Definitely incoming fire alert and superintendent is needed, because you do have a lot of consumables. Now, one thing that I would say, that if you want to swap last stand for the consumable specialist, I would highly recommend that, because then you can enhance the consumables preparation and reload time by minus 7.5% for 3 consumables, which I would say is a lot. So that is something that I would like to mention. So yeah, that is the way that I would say to play a Yodo, just using these very good long-range torpedoes, increasing the speed to such that the reaction time is kind of competitive against battleship, if not cruiser or destroyers, because again, the concealment on the torpedo itself is still not like really good. But even then, I think this build is gonna be pretty much worth it. Okay, so let's take a look at the tier 10 IGN cruiser, heavy cruiser, Zhao. Now, Zhao does have a captain build vastly different compared to Yodo. I mean, you will see a night and day difference. But that is how I like to see Zhao for the captain skills. Now, you do have a spotter plane, right? You do have the spotter plane, and I just improved this capability because the firing range is not something that is pretty impressive with only 17.5 kilometer with the legendary mod, which is one thing that I would like to mention because I want that improved dispersion with just slightly better main battery firing range. I mean, if you use the range mod, you can definitely improve it significantly, but I would love that dispersion on top of already very impressive Zhao destroyer dispersion. Kind of makes it pretty good. So I build it like this. I am using Eye in the Sky, reducing the consumable action cooldown time of spotting aircraft by minus 50% and also getting extra charges, making it very, very useful. You can just pop the spotter plane on the demand, and that is really cool. Incoming fire alert, I just love that skill. I needed that on cruisers so that I can speed juke. Also, you do have a lot of consumables, so you can use consumable specialists as well as the third traverse grease the gear skill. Because you have not that impressive turning time. I mean, it's still not bad. I think the base turning time is like 30 seconds, so you can improve it with that and you can get it to like 26.1, which kind of makes it a lot much more comfortable. I'm using heavy HE and sap shells on the Zhao, however, which kind of increases its concealment, but since I have felt that the recent buffs to the Zhao and the fighting angles that they made to Zhao are good enough, that I really felt that I should use a heavy HE and sap shells. Your gun performance with insanely good dispersion, amazing dispersion, kind of makes it super good to farm onto those superstructures. Getting those fires as well as that alpha improvement is so nice for me as playing Zhao. Survivability expert, improving the survivability would be pretty nice, and also the superintendent and the concealment so that you don't get such a terrible concealment numbers after using the heavy HE and sap shell. So that is something that I would like to say about the Zhao. So Zhao with this feels amazing to me. I feel it pretty comfortable. The spotter plane has 105 seconds of cooldown time, so you can just pop spotter plane again and again, and your action time is also pretty good. I can improve the action time if I need it with the help of spotting aircraft mod 1 if you need it. But that is what Zhao feels like. Alright, so now we talk about the Desmoines, which is the American heavy cruiser. So I'm using, just to let you know that I'm using the legendary mod. So, but even then, it's not gonna change a lot of stuff for captain skills, right? Desmoines does have amazing DPM. You have really good reload time on these AP that is pretty punchy, and also the HE. You have improved firing angles. Sorry, not improved firing angles, improved ricochet angles. So I'm using the heavy AP shells, improving the alpha, which kind of makes it pretty good. I'm also using, in the case of Desmoines, top grade gunner, which I would say is really good because if you pop the radar, which you do have on Desmoines, you can spot the DDs and since the DD is spotting you, you are going to get better DPM in return. If you are just getting spotted by destroyers, if they are within that direction, then you will have a main battery load time minus 8%. And even then, I mean, if there is any other ship that is spotting you, you will just simply improve your reload time even further, which I would say is very, very handy. So yeah, that is something that I would highly recommend. Your concealment needs to be there. It gets to 10.9 kilometers, so that is very important. Adrenaline rush, and again, increasing the duration of radar and hydro, pretty important. And also, I said something about the heavy AP shells. They will just improve the AP TPM as well as the superintendent to get the extra heal, radar and the hydro. So that is how I feel that Desmoines is gonna be a lot much worth that way. Again, gun feeder is very important because if you want to switch the shells, that would help a lot. So that is how I feel for Desmoines. Let's talk about the Worcester real quick. So there is my Worcester. Let me show you the captain skills real quick. Now Worcester, again, I would say I like this sort of build. Now I'm using the survivability expert, improving the survivability to almost 50,000, superintendent because you do have a lot of consumables, and I'm using consumable specialist, improving the consumable preparation and reload time, improving the radar duration, and also adrenaline rush, and I like radio location. I don't like IFHE, or sorry, I would say heavy HE and sap shells, because, well, it will just gonna make the radar value pretty low because you will be spotted, from the moon by destroyers. So you should not really spec into heavy HE and sap shells. But however, you do have a choice between the radio location and the IFHE. Now, I do not like the fire chance to get completely halved with the use of IFHE. I just don't like it. I already like the fire chance to be 12%. Your DPM is pretty good. Your shell throwing capability is very impressive. So I just don't want to use IFHE. Instead, I'm using the radio location. And this is really valuable for your Worcester. Why? Because if you know there is a destroyer that is coming towards you or some ship that is very close, I, as a light cruiser, at least for me, I feel like that it is kind of feels to be a lot much more stronger to tackle that enemy ship with the help of the radio location. I just able to, even though I radar those destroyers, right, and I just done some good damage, if he able to disengage, the radio location does help me still that where is the location of the destroyer. So that really helps me a lot. There are not a whole lot of other things that you can really pick except maybe the top grade gunner, but I think in the case of Worcester, you don't want to be bowing in at all whatsoever. You're just going to be playing in a hiding position or behind the islands. And I'm not even specking on the AA defense or anything. It's still, it does having a really good AA defense platform, but if the carrier likes to just farm you, even with the really good AA spec, it will still be able to do that. So it's just the reality of the carriers against surface ships. So yeah, that is the build I would like for Worcester. Okay, let's talk about the Alexander Nevsky, which is a Russian light cruiser. Now, Nevsky does have also the access to radar. So how I would build Nevsky is pretty straightforward. Just like Worcester, I also like Nevsky to be kind of spec-like. Like now, in the case of Worcester, it's basically similar. In the case of Nevsky, again, I like to play in kiting position. I want to increase the survivability. I want to improve the radar as much as possible. Also, the reduction of reload time for the radar and hydro is extremely useful. So I just kind of use it this build. Again, don't want to spec onto the IFHE. Don't want to nerf the fire chance, the 13% fire chance that Alexander Nevsky has. I really like it. And I don't think so any other skill will just help much Nevsky overall compared to these ones that I'm using. So yeah, that's why I like exactly similar build like I have showed you for Worcester. Okay, so the Petro. Now, one thing that I would like to mention that if you have Nikolai Kuznetsov on Petro, which I would say is highly recommend, then you have done a good job, because Nikolai Kuznetsov is so much tailor-made for this ship that I can't emphasize enough. It's just so good. Now, why Nikolai Kuznetsov getting these skills? Well, for Petro, it's pretty simple. Again, it already has enhanced consumable specialist, so that is like 10%, which kind of makes it really good if you want to get fast radar ready against destroyers, which you definitely get a lot of value. I mean, you do have to trade off like gun feeder, so if you do want the gun feeder, that is totally up to you. But I just like the consumable specialist because it's slightly buffed. If it would not get buffed on this Nikolai Kuznetsov, I would have just swapped it with gun feeder. It's pretty easy for me to just change. But you can also do that if you want to. If you don't want that extra improvement in the reload time on the consumables, you can always switch to gun feeder. Again, enhanced consumable the duration is really important for the radar. I like it. Improved AP alpha is the improved AP alpha is so much important on Petro. You already have really good AP alpha with the help of legendary mod, and this would help a lot much more. So I would say this build is pretty good. Now you have to trade quite a bit of things, but I think it's still worth it. Now, since you are extremely tanky, your armor profile is amazing when you are bowing in, so you can always use top grade gunner. It's less riskier than Desmoines if you are bowing in, so you can just utilize it a lot much more. And you also do have high concealment, so you can proc it a lot much more once you are playing the game. So yeah, that is something that I really like about the Petro. Highly recommend the legendary mod if you want to. So this build or captain skill feels to me almost perfect. I don't think so there's any change that even some other YouTubers or streamers might have done. Okay, so the next ship is going to be the German heavy cruiser, that is Hindenburg. I like Günther Lutyens, which is the legendary commander, on Hindenburg a lot because it improves the damage output if you get 140 shell hits, which I really love. Like Hindenburg does have really good reload time on 12 of these guns, so you have very easiest chance in the mid game to get the main battery loader talent proc onto this, I would say, cruiser. So what other captain skills that I would recommend on Hindenburg? Now, obviously there are a couple of things that I should mention, is that you can always use Eye in the Sky if you kind of have that similar vibe that I was showing you in the Zhao build. Because Zhao also likes the Eye in the Sky a lot, but you can also do that in the Hindenburg. But Hindenburg fortunately has better main battery firing range, which is 17.8 kilometer. So for me, this range feels enough that I just swap Eye in the Sky for some sort of A, although you can definitely not take it. This focus firing training, it's not gonna change a whole lot. I mean, but you can do that if you want to. You can always switch to Eye in the Sky, which I would highly recommend. And the rest of the build is pretty much similar. I like top grade gunner if I'm pushing in. This helps a lot with slightly better main battery reload time if you are spotted by an enemy ship, and also the heavy AP shells, the superintendent increasing the heal, which are actually base 4 heals in the case of Hindenburg. Increasing it to 5 is pretty spicy and nice. And you have improved third hover skill. That is also very nice because Hindenburg can definitely use this improved third traverse on it. So that is kind of really nice. And also, since I'm using Günther Lutyens on many other cruisers that are like O-class heavy cruiser, for example, like Siegfried, Aegir, and maybe some other cruiser like Hildebrand, that build feels super solid to me as well. And that's why I feel it to be pretty comfortable with this captain skills. Now, let's talk about the Goliath, which is the British heavy cruiser. I haven't spec'd the Goliath because I have reset the commander skills when they have given us free respec. But let me show you quickly that what it looks like. So this is the captain skills for Goliath that I feel are extremely good. Now I'm using the gun feeder, which I would say is pretty nice. You do have a long reload time at 18.5 seconds. So gun feeder does help a lot. If someone broadside you, your AP alpha is decent enough with these 12 guns that you can punch them hard. Although I am speccing it more for HE alpha increase, even though I'm just gonna get slightly worse concealment overall at 12.7. But the reason why I'm using the heavy HE in sap shells because it does have access to super heals. And healing potential on Goliath is definitely higher. Kind of makes it pretty, I would say, sort of withstanding against other cruisers if you want to just take on them 1 versus 1. So just improvement of that, HE alpha, which can be like 4200, feels pretty solid. And you do also have very solid HE pen, kind of makes it more valuable overall, because you're just going to get full raw pens on most battleships, if not all battleship. Exceptions is going to be only the Kremlin, and I would say that Russian super battleship, which I don't exactly remember the name. But yeah, that is pretty good. And you can, since you also do have good tankiness with the super heals, just like that, you can always use the top grade gunner. You can push whenever you need it, or maybe if you are in kiting position, if the enemy cruisers are pushing you, this top grade gunner can do wonders. So this build is pretty good. Now, you might be thinking that why I'm using focus fire training. Well, there is not a whole lot of other skills that can benefit Goliath much. If you might be thinking of demolition expert, one thing that I should mention that your fire chance is already 24%. From 24%, getting it to 25% is not valuable. But if you have a fire chance that is already 5%, and then you are getting a demolition expert from 5% to 6%, now that is a lot much more valuable, because the percentage improvement would be significant, and that's why I'm not using demolition expert. So I think this is a good explanation that I have to give, so that you might not confuse that why I'm not using this. All right, that is pretty much how Goliath feels like. The Minotaur is, again, I have inspected, I have reset that captain. Let me show you that real quick how it looks like. So there is the Minotaur build, and again you might see the resemblance of this build like that of Alexander Nevsky and Worcester, because I again do like the radio location skill. Since I am using the radar Mino almost all the time, you have amazing radar. Your radar lasts for insane, I would say 44 seconds, and it can go even further if I'm using the surveillance radar mod 1, getting it up to like 50-ish kilometer or more. You do have super heals, and the RPF does help me a lot. If I radar the destroyer, or maybe not radar that guy, I exactly know where he is. And it would be amazing when you are contesting the caps against the enemy destroyer, because you can stealth radar them and you will exactly know their position because of the RPF if they are contesting that similar cap. And you stealth radar them, just makes it really nice. You can just try it out yourself. I have tried out myself, and it really makes it very solid. And I mean, you can also send the torpedoes on that area, kind of makes it also good, since you do have 10-kilometer range. But I still didn't spec the Minotaur with torpedoes, because again, there are other things that I would like to spec, and I would rate them more valuable than these skills. For example, the survivability expert, the superintendent, extra heal, extra radar is something that you cannot miss on the Minotaur. Even with the smoke build, it's something that you should not miss. So this is how basically feels like pretty good overall build for Mino. So there is the Henri IV with its captain build, which you will find out that it is gonna be pretty interesting. Now it is a lighthouse build for Henri IV. Now what really makes it different? Well, I'm not speccing it for concealment, because I want to make it different compared to, for example, like Goliath or many other cruisers. So I just didn't, if I want to play the Henri IV, I just don't spec like this. I want to just kite away, farm ships with really bad concealment. I mean, your concealment can go worse with the help of heavy HE and sap shells, making it a stronger lighthouse build, since you can use the top grade gunner and having the main battery reload time perk on all the time, because there you will be spotted by someone and it will just gonna give you a main battery reload time just almost every time. So that kind of makes it pretty good. I'm using the incoming fire alert, so you can just speed juke them. If they shoot you, gun feeder, very important. If you want to just smash cruisers and swap to the AP, turret traverse, very important. Your turret traverse is pretty bad, as you can see here. It's with the turret traverse scale gets up to like only 32.7, so it does have battleship levels of turret traverse. So that is something that I should spec for Henri IV, and you should as well. One more thing that I should mention, that its concealment can go even worse and can support the lighthouse build of Henry even further if you are using the improved main battery loading mechanisms. Now it worsens the detection by plus 10%, which kind of makes your concealment insanely bad. But you are all but at the same time you're going to get main battery firing range and the reload time buff as well, on top of this buff that you can get from the top grade gunner, and on top of this buff that you're getting from main battery mod 3, making the reload time pretty good, under 10 seconds. And that is something that makes Henry very, very good if you want to spam battleships and set fires within having a reload time of like 10 or 9 seconds, or even like less than that if you're getting insane adrenaline rush. And that's why I like the Henry 4 with this sort of build. Otherwise, there is no other reason to play Henry 4, to be honest. That's how it is, because there are cruisers like Zhao, you can pick Goliath, and they can just have stealthy sort of characteristics, so I just don't want to do that. Okay, so the Marseille, let me build this captain skill as well, because I haven't done that. It's gonna be pretty straightforward though. Let me show you that real quick. So there is the build for Marseille. As you can see here, I have built this in a very different way. I'm using the heavy AP shells in this case because the Marseille is more about AP than HE itself. Like, your reload time is so bad at 21 seconds because these are higher caliber guns, and your AP penetration is so good that you want to spec the heavy AP shells for that. And since you are having a very sort of tanky cruiser hull overall, and still having very good concealment at 11.6 kilometer, I don't want to mess it up by using the heavy HE and SAP shells. So I started to use the top grade gunner because you can push into the ships and can utilize that top grade gunner to the maximum potential. And that's why I kind of like Marseille in this way. You do have a main battery reload booster and the speed boost, so that is pretty handy. If you use the consumable enhancement, your extra duration with the speed boost can be pretty nice, but you can even go for the focus fire training. You can basically go for either of these perks. I don't mind at all whatsoever. However, there is a bit of a trade-off that you have to do. If you're using incoming fire alert, then you might have to miss on the gun feeder, which I would say is very important on Marseille, because your reload time is 21.1 seconds. So yeah, you can get the gun feeder, and that would be pretty much worth on Marseille. But again, I have taken that trade-off and just use the incoming fire alert because I love speed juking and not take damage at ranges. If anyone shoots me, I exactly know that when they have shot me, so I can just instantly use the speed juking by slowing down. And grease the gears is highly important because it has terrible turret traverse. It has actually battleship levels of turret traverse, which can be slightly mitigated by grease the gears skill. So definitely this overall feels pretty good. You have decent survivability, so I haven't gone for survivability expert and I haven't gone for demolition expert, because again, fire chance is already 35%. Increasing it to like 35 to 36% is just does not make sense. So yeah, that is how I feel for Marseille. It seems to be working extremely well, and you can use it for yourself as well. This is a very safe but a decent overall build for Marseille. But let's talk about the Venezia, which is the Italian tier 10 cruiser. Now, I'm using Luigi Cincinnati first of all, and I would highly recommend Luigi Cincinnati on either the Venezia or the Colombo. If you are a battleship lover, with insane sap damage that you can get from these Italian battleships, then you can use Luigi Cincinnati on that. But I'm using it on Venezia because I like the flexibility with better reload time overall with these guns, with 15 of these guns more. And I just love sap on DDs and submarines, so that's why I'm using Luigi Cincinnati. It has a lot of valuable perks. You know that it will improve the main battery reload time if you get Confederate, which is pretty nice, improving the range with a kill. And also, if you have, some hitting 100 times with the main battery shells, you can also get some action time, which is very nice. So I kind of built it like this, using the gun feeder, which is improved in the case of Luigi Cincinnati, kind of makes it very good, like having a really minimum sort of shell type switching time to 7.4 seconds, which I would say is very nice. And then I'm using consumable specialist, improving the reload time of smokes, because you have exhaust smoke generator. These are very, very good smokes to just crawl or just move from one place to another without getting spotted. So I feel pretty good using that. Consumable enhancements, again, improving the smoke generator action time is something that I really would recommend to you guys. I mean, you can improve the smoke quality. It will increase the survivability of Venezia more, and you can just do damage by just not getting spotted while you are in the smoke, because your smoke firing penalty is still around, like, not too bad. As you can see, it's 9.9 kilometers. So at least anything outside 10 kilometer, you would just simply smoke fire them without getting spotted. And heavy HE and sap shells, again, I'm using the legendary mod, which kinda takes out your concealment out of the way, and I'm using the augmented smoke generator, which increases the exhaust smoke generator consumables, which I would say kinda worth it. And since your smokes come so quickly, which in this case is only 71.2 seconds, otherwise it has insanely high cooldown time, the legendary mod kinda makes it such that the heavy HE and sap shells is a must. Like, you can just always smoke up if you get spotted. If you are in a terrible position, you can just smoke up yourself. You have 5 get out of jail free cards. It kind of works like that. So you can just smoke up unless you get radared, and you can just able to use this insane alpha, which is improved at 5.7k. So that kind of makes it pretty solid sort of investment into these skills. And also the top grade gunner can even improve the reload time, since you do have kind of worse concealment, so it will proc as well quite consistently in the game. So yeah, that is the build that I love. Although you can do a couple of things. If you want the eye in the sky, I think this is very, very nice. Eye in the sky, the moment you see a spotter plane on a cruiser, eye in the sky gets very much recommended by me. Even though I haven't used that, I like the smoke potential more, because I can use this on Napoli or any other cruiser as well that are freemiums or premiums. And as a reason why, if they don't have eye in the sky, the value of the Luigi Cincinnati gets down significantly, because it's not worth it on those cruisers, except basically on Venezia. So yeah, that's the way it is for me. I'm using Smoke Generator Mod 1, kind of makes it ridiculous action time to 58.1 seconds, and you can improve it further if you get 100 shell hits, getting up to like 60, more than 60 seconds of action duration. That kind of makes it very interesting Venezia captain skills build. Okay, now this is a pan-Asian light cruiser, Jinan. I think Jinan definitely should get the Quanrong. I really love Quanrong for just having improved demolition expert, which is 1.5%. And the recent buff of the Jinan kind of makes it so strong. Like, let me show you the fire chance that it has now. If you use the flags, you have a fire chance of a staggering 13.5% for 127mm guns. To put that into perspective, Desmoines 203mm guns have 14% fire chance. Jinan, with the 2% fire chance improvement in, like, they have recently buffed the fire chance from 9 to 11. You can, if you spec it like this, the way I am, you have a 13.5% fire chance, which is kind of bonkers with this insane 3 seconds of reload time. And I haven't built the gun DPM. I'm using the torpedo build overall with Jinan. This captain build is so good. It's not even funny. I mean, Quanrong also have improved survivability expert, so your HP can also be improved significantly to 37.5k, which is, I would say, is very nice for a light cruiser. And I mean, I would highly recommend to spec the Jinan to torpedoes as well, because they have buffed the torpedoes. Now you have 21,000 alpha damage on torpedoes with the P.A.K.A. punch skill, and you also improve the reload time. So your reload time is also like 96.4 seconds, and you have 10 torpedoes on each side. You have 10 torpedoes here, 10 torpedoes here, and on top of that you have main battery load booster. So that is so spicy. I mean, Jinan can also utilized pretty well with the help of the legendary commander. I don't exactly remember the name. Yeah, it's the name Shah Zhenbing. Yeah, the Shah Zhenbing can be pretty good because you are going to get extra torpedo reload booster and couple of other perks that can be pretty valuable in Jinan. But I would still say this is a solid, 100% solid build for Jinan. Your concealment is good. You do have smokes. You get extra smoke, which is 4, extra heal. The fire chance is amazing. And the torpedoes are so good with this reload time and alpha that I don't think so you should miss out on anything. Your speed is also pretty impressive. If you fully build it with torpedoes, which I have done, you will have amazing time in Jinan. It just feels so good playing this ship. Okay. Gouden Leeuw captain skills. Well, I'm using the Michael de Ruyter, which is another special commander. It's not the legendary commander, it's the special commander. Conrad Helfrich is currently available for free right now if you want to grind. But if you might not have time to grind that, you can always use Michael de Ruyter. It is available in the form of coal in the armory. You have to check that out. I'm exactly not sure, but yeah, it is available in some way or the other for coal or 1500 doubloons. But anyways, it does have improved airstriking capability, like your priority sector reinforcements improved. I don't exactly know that what sort of improvements this focus firing training does, but I would say if it is improved one, then you should pick that one compared to the demolition expert, because again your fire chance is already 20% and increasing it to even 1.5 is not something that is gonna make Gouden Leeuw RNG amazing compared to the Jinan, for example. So survivability expert, superintendent, using the adrenaline rush, and I like heavy HE and sap shells. But again, if someone is more comfortable with that bad concealment, then sure you can do it. But I feel the Gouden Leeuw to be in that way pretty good. Some people might not, so they might not use it. But I use it, and I would recommend that because your HEDPM is not that amazing. 15 seconds of reload time, and improving it with the help of HE Alpha, since you have pretty good guns, 283mm guns, that definitely gonna help a lot. Taking on the cruisers or anything out there, and you do chunk them for pretty hard HE Alpha damage. Turret reverse is pretty much essential because your turret reverse is again not the best, but it's not too bad either. It's definitely better than French cruisers or many other cruisers out there. But still, you can use that because there's not other thing that you can just spec that for. But yeah, that is something that I kind of like for the Gouden Leeuw. Obviously, I like the legendary mod, so that just fits into the build perfectly. Cerberus. This is a Commonwealth cruiser that have access to crawling smoke generator. Now, what I like about the Cerberus is that you should, I would say, spec it for consumables. Like you do have a lot of consumables, like you have hydro, exhaust smoke generator. Again, if you increase the action time or reduce the preparation time of these consumables, like in this case, crawling smoke generator, that will increase the survivability significantly because you can farm them in smoke for a long time. Like you can see here, I have increased the action time by plus 10%, so I'm using this. And I'm using the grease the gears because turret reverse is actually not that good. So only 30 seconds with the help of grease the gears. And I'm using the survivability expert, superintendent, very much useful because you get a lot of extra consumables. Adrenaline rush, and I would say top grade gunner, even though I could also recommend you guys to use the heavy HE and sap shells, since you do have 4 crawling smokes. And if you like to increase the duration of these smokes, you can also use smoke generator mod 1, which I can recommend as well. Totally up to you. I feel it to be pretty okay. I want that dispersion, slightly better dispersion on already very good dispersion. Don't get me wrong here. These are still cruiser dispersion guns, so but still 7% dispersion still kind of makes it decent and accurate overall. I mean, that is my sort of taste. You guys can just take if you want to. If you want to take that smoke, no problem whatsoever. So that is the build that I like for Cerberus. So let's go to the San Martin, which is a Pan-American light cruiser. Now, San Martin again super rely on consumables. You do have a surveillance radar, short action time, so improving the radar action time is must. So you can do that with the help of the surveillance radar mod 1 as well as with the captain skills. And I mean, you 100% need extra heal, which you can get with the help of Superintendent. Your survivability improvement is also very, very important in San Martin because you can heal a lot of penetration damage and even citadel damage, like a lot. And your F key loads, yeah, like you have F key, right? It will just quickly able to get the heals back within like 10 seconds roughly if you use the F key. So Superintendent and improving the survivability more does help in my opinion. But I again kind of build it exactly like Nevsky, Worcester, Minotaur, because it just kind of makes it pretty good. I didn't spec it for Torps, I didn't spec it for top grade gunner. I don't feel it that way to be pretty useful there. And I didn't build it for A. I just don't think so. If the carrier wants to kill you, it does not matter if you build it, he will kill you. Even though you can always have a different captain for that. So I usually do this way, but my main captain is kind of having this skill. Or I would say these captain skills. Castilla. I hope I didn't pronunciate that wrong, but yeah, this captain is also going to be straightforward. I definitely recommend High in the Sky because you do have spotter plane. Improving the range is important because you don't have very good range to begin with. And again, you have burst fire mood, so it's nothing too different, like except for the gimmick that they have given to the Castilla. So survivability with the help of Superintendent, concealment, top grade gunner is pretty useful in late games, or at least if you are brawling with some sort of cruiser or something. Gunfeeder is also very, very valuable. If you want to switch to AP, you switch to AP quickly and just use the burst fire, so that really increases its value a lot like this. So Eye in the Sky, definitely worth it. Your range is not good to begin with. So yeah, that is how I think the Castilla is gonna be worth it. So well, these are all the captain skills that I felt that are pretty much worth it for these cruisers. Again, you can disagree with these points or the skills that I have mentioned. If you do like them, you can use them. You can try out yourself. It's not something that is like hard coded. For example, you can have a different build for example, in the case of Castilla, you can always use heavy HN sap shells, but I don't like it. I want the concealment to be pretty good, at least in this case, because your firing range is not like 20 kilometers to begin with. So yeah, I don't want to worsen the concealment from here on. So, I mean, but you can always use it. It's not like bad idea. You can even use heavy AP shells if you want to. Because you can just smash cruisers slightly more if you're using burst fire onto the broadside. So, yeah, you can do a couple of things. But I think this is a safe and decent build that you cannot go wrong with. So, I hope you like this video. It's taken me quite some time and speaking. But at least I am trying to help you guys. I'm trying to make this good, solid community for you. So if you have any questions, please let me know. I will try my best to answer those questions in the comment section below. And if you find any of the build not good, you can also explain why is the case. I can pin your comment if needed be. Till then, I will catch you guys into the next video, and maybe make a captain skill video for the premium cruisers, which I do have a ton of them, and definitely I should make a video for that as well. So if you may be looking forward for that, you can always let me know in the comments. Till then, peace out.